Hey guys, it's Charlene with Dreamcraft Create. I'm happy to be here on the Scrapbook and Cards Today YouTube channel, sharing some fun ways to add texture to your backgrounds. I'm going to be using some new products from Honeybee Stamps. This is the Bountiful Banner stamp. It is a large stamp with this beautiful explosion of autumn goodness, but it also could be used during the spring, just depending on how you color it. So I'm coming in here and inking up the stamp using some Honeybee Stamps Intense Black ink, making sure to get some really nice, good, even coverage all the way across the stamp. I am using my stamp wheel, which I am loving, and so I flip that over and just make sure to get a really nice impression. Now, because this is a large stamp and it has so much detail, I am going ahead and adding a second coating there with the Intense Black ink, and I am going to use my pressure tool just to make sure I get some really nice pressure on this large stamp. Once that's done, I'm going to come in with the Bountiful Banners layering stencil. There are 6 layers to this set, and each layer colors different parts of the stamp. It makes things so easy, and I'm going to be using my paper pouncers from Picket Fence Studios. I love using these for stencils. You can see over on my channel, I use them all the time. But I've got my orange paper pouncer here, and I'm using some dye inks from Concord and Ninth. This is Clementine. It's a really beautiful orange. It's going to dry back really nicely. And I'm going to actually use a second color here on the floral images. I'm using some cranberry, which is a really deep, rich red. And you can see I'm getting that on there real lightly with my pouncer. And you'll notice I'm sort of squeezing the end of my pouncer so I can make sure that that top part of the pouncer is going exactly where I want it. Now, the nice thing about these paper pouncers is they make coloring with stencils super easy. You just tap them on your ink pad lightly to pick up some ink, and then you tap them over the top of your stencil. It's that easy. And again, like I said, if you want to get into smaller spaces, you can easily maneuver in there just by kind of squeezing the top of the paper pouncer there with your fingers. So the first layer did all of those beautiful florals. You'll notice I did miss one off camera. I went back and colored that later. But I'm doing my leaves here. The nice thing about these stencils from Honeybee Stamps, they have it so that one stencil colors some of the leaves, you can see, and then the next layer of the stencil colors the other part of the leaves that are on each area. So I can come in with 2 different shades to really get some dimension on the leaves in this stamp set. So I'm first coming in here with some artichoke, and then when I use the next layer of the stencil, I'm going to be using avocado. These are both kind of dark but muted greens, but you'll be able to tell in the finished card that they are a slightly different tone. So it looks really nice without being too overwhelming on the card. And you'll notice all I'm using is my magnets on my glass board to hold these stencils down. With the pouncers, your stencils are not going to be moving all over the place, unlike if you use a blending brush. And if you are doing that, I would recommend using some low-tack tape or some pixie spray to hold down your stencil so it doesn't move. But I've got my magnets there. I can just move my magnets around on top of the stencil in order to kind of get where I need to go as I'm using my pouncers. Coming in here now with the avocado. Do you see the difference now between the 2 greens? It's a really nice combination. So for the remaining leaves on the card, there's another 2 layers of stencils. Same thing. It's only going to color in a portion of the leaves, and then the next layer of the stencil will color the other ones. I'm using some darker yellowish greens here. I'm using lemongrass, which is a beautiful color, perfect for fall. And then you'll see on the next layer, I'm going to use Stardust. I love the names of the Concord and Ninth inks. They're so fun. If you are using your magnets on a magnetic glass board like this, all you need to do once you are done is you can just take a paper towel and wipe off any ink that you may have gotten onto your magnets, just so you don't get it on anything else that you might be trying to hold down in the future. I always just do that once I'm all done with coloring to make sure I don't have any issues, but it makes it so easy to use the pouncers and your magnets. I love that it's so easy on my wrists, which is really nice. So I've come in here now with that stardust, and you can see the difference between the stardust and the lemongrass. Again, it's not a huge difference. It's a slight variation in the tones here, but I really wanted this to evoke the feeling of a beautiful autumn bouquet that's just kind of exploding from the card. And I love that big giant banner piece that's going along the center there. This style of stamp and stencil makes it really easy to fill up the front of a card. For those tiny little pieces there at the bottom and the top, I'm using some blueberry. I know I've been sticking with greens and kind of oranges at this point, but I'm bringing in that blue because blue complements the orange really nicely. And so I'm going to add that pop of blue at the top and the bottom. And then just to add in another color and create some more interest and variation here, I'm using some fig, and I'm going to use the fig to color the centers of the flowers. It's just a tiny little detail. It doesn't show up too much, but those little details are what add some depth and interest to your card. So don't skip out on them. Also, this last stencil here, it has an opening to color in that large banner. So you could leave this white. If you're going to leave it white, I would recommend doing a little bit of masking so you don't end up getting your paper pouncers or your blending brush, if that's what you're using, in on there. But I am going to color it with the purple just to add that extra kind of burst of color with these beautiful fall colors. And you can see how easily the paper pouncers color that banner. I'm just tapping along on there, and this is gonna look seamless when it is all done. It's gonna look really beautiful. Such a quick and easy way to color your stamped images, and I just love how it looks when it's finished. So I'm going to take off the stencil, and you can see how beautiful it looks. I'm using the Coordinating Bountiful Banner dies. I think this set is really cool because it doesn't just cut out the outline, it also cuts out little spots here and there all around so that the finished product is going to sit on the card, but you can see the background behind that image. And that is where the magic is going to happen. I'm going to show you that here in a few minutes. For my sentiment, I'm going to be using one of the stamps from the set. It says congratulations. Again, using my stamp wheel, I'm going to stamp that out with some intense black ink. I double stamped just so I could make sure I got a really nice bold stamping there. And then I'm going to use the coordinating die to cut out the sentiment. And so you'll see that gives it a little bit of white space all the way around the sentiment. And that's really going to make it pop when we put our card together. Now, to take your cards up to that next level, adding a background to your card that is textured is really going to make them visually interesting. So Honeybee Stamps just came out with, I think, one of my favorite embossing folders ever. They came out with the burlap embossing folder, and there is so much texture on this background. It is beautiful. It would look amazing in any color, but I'm doing it in white. So it's going to create that lovely texture and really bring up the level of this card behind our lovely floral piece, but it's not going to detract from that front floral piece either. So you can see I cut out 2 extra of the sentiment die cuts, and I've layered them up with liquid glue. I'm using the new Precision Glue Press, which so far I am loving, from My Sweet Petunia. So what I like to do is hold my die cuts with my reverse tweezers, then I can get my piece started on there and then just work around the edges with my fingers, pinching here and there until I can get everything lined up. I did the same thing here with our floral piece. I cut out 2 extra die cuts of that Bountiful banner piece, and now I'm coming in here with my liquid glue and layering those up as well. Now that we have all the pieces together, we can go ahead and put the card together. So I'm going to put my sentiment there right along that purple banner, and now you can see how nicely that white outline pops against the purple. It's just very pretty, ties in with the rest of the white on the card. And I'm going to put my burlap piece here onto an A2 sized card base. So it's going to be a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card. And then I can glue my whole Bountiful banners piece right there on the front, just on top of that beautiful burlap 3D embossing folder. I can't get over that embossing folder. I love it so much. And I could leave it here, but I did want to add a little bit of sparkle, which I do on almost all of my cards. So I'm going to come in here with some Stardust Stickles from Ranger, and I'm just going along and dotting on the centers of the flowers. So that way, when you turn this card in the light, you're going to see a little bit of glitter and sparkle. So there is the finished card. I hope you guys picked up some tips and tricks today. Thank you so much for joining me here on the Scrapbook and Cards Today YouTube channel. Please be sure to like and subscribe, as well as hit that notification bell so that you'll get notified about future videos. I hope you all have a wonderful day.